Welcome to the Purple Chair Podcast, brought to you by Prestige Trucking Insurance, where truckers, fleets, and leaders share the road ahead. This is more than insurance. This is about trust, growth, and protection that lasts. Take your seat. Let's get equipped.
Welcome back to the Purple Chair Podcast, powered by Prestige Trucking Insurance. This is going to be where the entrepreneurs, the truckers, the fleet owners come to get their information that we need to know in this industry.
Today we're diving into something every driver and fleet owner should be thinking about: the future of trucking. What's changing, what's staying, and how to prepare your business for the road ahead. So let's start simple. For anyone who hasn't dealt with this yet, what is proof of a garaging address, or POGA, and why does it matter in trucking?
So it matters because where you are trucking, it needs to be known by FMCSA. And I encounter this problem a lot. It's like when people start their DOT company, they don't get this information from their agent or from the person that's helping set up their company. There's a physical address and there's a mailing address, and both have to reflect where the address is actually at. So if you have a mailing address, all your mail is going there. That's where the mailing will go. Where the physical address is, that's where you're parked at all times, not like here and there. And it's important because if you're parked somewhere in a zip code where there's a lot of claims happening, a lot of accidents occurring, you need to pay where you're garaging. There's more risk. You're more liable to get into a car crash. You're more at risk to hit somebody or someone to hit you. So we're just following the protocol. When someone's asking where you are parking your truck, just give an actual answer and update it on the FMCSA website, because it's going to hinder you from getting a good quote and an accurate quote. And we want to ensure that you're paying the right price at the end of the day.
Okay, so why do you think POGA is such a hot issue in trucking right now? Like, what is bringing it into the spotlight?
So it goes back to what I was saying. Like, when you first started your DOT, you were never informed accurately how the process goes. You should have always set it up with the mailing and the physical address. So now you're like 2 or 3 years into the business and you're just learning this. You're going to have some pushback when your agent is asking you proof of garaging, because nobody told you about this in the beginning. But a lot of insurance carriers, they're taking it more seriously, exactly where you are parking, because they're going to charge you basically based on the zip code. So if you're parked in a zip code that's really hot, like, you want to make sure that you're giving us accurate information, or just move your truck to somewhere where it's a lot safer, just to make it easier for yourself.
Right. Okay. So what are insurance carriers looking for as proof? Is it just about the zip code, or does it go deeper?
So if you're parked in like an area like where you have to pay for parking, because there are some free parking spots, but it's always like a first come first serve basis, which is fine. I understand that that's the easier route, but you're not always parked there because you're not always there first. So you want to park somewhere where you actually do have to pay. Unfortunately, you do have to come out of pocket, but it is what it is. This is your business. You want to invest into it. And when you park there and you get permission to park there, you want to have a lease agreement, proof that you're allowed to park there on paper.
Okay, so we've heard stories about truckers using mailboxes, family homes, and things like that as proof of garaging address, but it doesn't necessarily qualify. Can you break down exactly what qualifies and what doesn't?
Okay, so this is actually a good question, because say you have a tractor and you're parking it in your apartment complex. That's what it shows on FMCSA, by the way. Are you really parking it there? Like, you're not parking it there. Like, that big truck is not going to fit there. And that's why it's an issue, because you're giving inaccurate information. So you want to make sure that where you are actually parking it is accurate. Because I know you're probably parking it maybe in the same zip code down the street where it's a bigger lot that fits tractors. And I'm sure maybe you also have a trailer as well that's definitely not going to fit in an apartment complex. So you want to make sure you're giving us accurate information, because you're going to get flagged for underwriting, and then your price is going to go up and you're going to get mad at us. But we ask these questions up front so we can avoid all of that.
Okay, so how does the FMCSA view garaging addresses? Like, does it go back to DOT compliance checks and things like that?
Okay, so essentially it does go back to that, but it's honestly dependent on your agent, and is that's why we always harp. You want to make sure you have a good agent. You don't want to just go for the price. You want to make sure that you have an agent that's going to give you all the right information and steer you in the right direction to grow your company. Or if you're not someone that wants to grow, you want to stay with one truck, fine, but you want to make sure that you're doing everything in compliance with FMCSA. If you don't have somebody that is on you and telling you the right things, and telling you stuff that you don't want to hear but is going to better your business, then you're doing business wrong. You want to make sure that you have an agent that's going to tell you up front and tell you, hey, you need to make sure you have proof of where you're parking your truck. You need to make sure that the physical address is updated on FMCSA and the mailing address reflects where you need your mail to go to. So if someone is not telling you straight up or barely giving you information and gatekeeping, that's not someone that you want to do business with.
Right. Okay. So if a trucking company lists the wrong garaging address, how does it affect them? Like, is it going to just cause them to have higher premiums, or is it going to be like cancellations and denials in the future?
So it's actually both, and it depends on the carrier, and it depends on your history too. If you kind of run like a red flag, you have high ISS scores, you have a chameleon carrier flag, like you have out of service violations, that company is going to determine if they want to flat cancel you, if they want to non-renew you, or if they want to just raise the premium on you because they can see that you're doing business shady. So it's important that you're upfront with your agent, and if you're working with us, we're gonna ask all the right questions. So you might want to work with us, to be honest, and we make sure to ask the right questions so that we can avoid any flat cancellations or higher premium changes in the middle of the policy terms, because we honestly encounter, I feel like you can say the same thing too, like you encounter truckers be like, oh, I don't want to go with this carrier because they raised the premium in the middle of the term, and I'm like, well, it's because your agent that signed you up with that carrier, they didn't do their due diligence and ask you the right questions up front. And that's what we try to avoid. We want to avoid that you have a bad experience with a carrier, because I feel like a lot of carriers are good. I mean, there are bad carriers out there, but for the majority of the ones that we write, we make sure that we write business with carriers that they're reputable, they're A-rated, they're admitted. And we make sure that we deliver the experience that they say they will give to our truckers. But it's up to the agent. Are they going to do the right thing, ask you the right questions so that you can avoid having a flat cancellation or a midterm premium raise?
Okay, so I know this has happened to me a few times. Can you give me like a real world example for the viewers on what happens when a customer, truck driver, owner operator, or a fleet uses a fake or misleading address? What happens to them?
So I've encountered this issue a few times, but not to get too specific, but they won't post filings is really what it is. Like, if you're not giving proof of where you're garaging your trucks, your filings are not going to get posted and you're going to lapse in coverage. And if you don't provide the proof, or if you don't just do your due diligence, update FMCSA showing the proof of where you're parking your trucks, it's hurting you. Like, and it just sucks because you started off the business thinking that you knew it all, but you don't. And every day is an opportunity for you to learn. So if someone's coming to you to tell you information and you feel like it's new information for you and you don't want to follow it because you were told this in the beginning, this is just information to help your business and to stay sustainable, and so that you don't have any premium increases or any cancellations. But yeah, I have seen in the past where they don't have proof of garaging and they just don't post the filings because they want that proof up front. That's how a lot of carriers are operating nowadays. If you're not giving them that proof, they're not going to give you the filings.
Okay, so speaking of proof, like, I know they could just really put whatever they want. How do underwriters verify whether or not they're telling the truth? Are they going by IFTAs? Are they going by inspection records? Like, what exactly? How can they prove it?
So a lease agreement. If you have a lease agreement, you're good. Just get that lease agreement signed by the person that's authorizing you to park your truck there. It's really not that hard, because if you're doing business the right way, you should easily be able to get that document in your hands and to provide it to your agent. But I mean, that's what we're looking for. We want good truckers. We want people that's going to do business the right way. If you're someone that's not doing it the right way, you might want to come and ask us what's the right way to do it, and we'll be happy to help you. But just get that lease agreement.
So you were saying earlier how, like, garaging zip code alone can change the premium. So can you give us like an idea of, like, walk us through how the zip code affects the premium, like, directly? Like, how can they get around it, or not get around it, but how can they know?
So, again, this goes back to how you started your business. You probably were misinformed, or you weren't given all the information, and someone gatekeeps from you, unfortunately. But if we come to you and be like, hey, where is it that you're actually parking? Because I'm looking up this address, and by the way, we have access to seeing your mailing address, and we could click on it and we could just see a house, and we automatically off the bat we know you're not parking a tractor and a trailer there in a small little apartment complex or even just a house. So that's why we ask that question. Where is it that you're parking? You give us a different address. Say it's like down the street. Hopefully it is down the street and it's the same zip code, and we can try to save you some money. Sometimes if it's further, say it's like 30 minutes away, sometimes it's parked in a zip code that's actually a safe zip code, and we can even save you more money. But it's important that we know exactly where you're parking, because in the middle of the term, they could post underwrite 90 days after we bind the policy. They will post underwrite your policy and start looking and seeing, hey, they're not actually parked there. They're not parked at this mailing address that's on FMCSA. Then they're going to ask, where are they actually parked? And then if you don't have that proof, they will either up your premium to where you're actually garaging your address once you provide the proof of garaging, or they'll non-renew you, or they'll flat cancel your policy.
Okay, so going back to like where you said it's a safer zip code, is there ever going to be a legitimate way for a trucker to be able to have a different garaging zip code? Or if they move to a safer zip code, is it automatically going to be a red flag with the insurance companies?
That's a tough question, because, I mean, you live where you live and you park where you park. I mean, you do business there for a reason. It's because you live there and you move from states from that specific garaging. I think you shouldn't really worry about that. I think if that's where you are, that's where you are. There's not a way for us to decipher, oh, park in this zip code, it'll be cheaper. Oh, park in this zip code, it'll be way cheaper. Like, there's no way for us to determine that. We just will go based off of your information that you give us, and that's on FMCSA.
Okay, so like, let's just say this. What advice would you give to a owner operator, a new venture who was trying to figure out their garaging address?
I mean, that type of question wouldn't come into play, because honestly, you wouldn't know about that. And honestly, that's not something that we would forewarn them, because that's not anything to be scared about. Like, where you park your truck is where you park your truck. So we would just be very clear and just let you guys know, like, hey, your mailing address is where all the mail goes. Your garaging / physical address, which shows on FMCSA, is where you're going to be parking your truck, and that address needs to show on FMCSA. There has to be basically 2 different addresses. Now, if you have like a pickup truck, no trailer in the back, because I've had this scenario, you could park that in your house, and that can be the mailing and the physical address. But if you're having a separate physical address, a garaging address, that has to show on FMCSA's website.
Right. So like, okay. So just for me, like, I've had a couple scenarios where like the garaging address, it's a box truck. You can park a box truck at a house. But if you look at the address, it's actually a HOA. So that might be an issue. Or, like a different scenario, they park at the free stations, the free gas stations, whatever. But some carriers don't accept that. So in that case, they're going to have to go and find a new garaging address where they might have to pay, but it's the difference is the same, because if you have to pay the difference in insurance premium, or you just have to find a permanent spot, that's, it doesn't really make a difference. You're actually going to pay less for the permanent spot than the difference in premium or the cancellation.
Yeah. Just to piggyback off of that, like, you chose this industry for a reason, and honestly, we need y'all on the road. Like, we need more truckers on the road to be able to fill our gases up every day, to come give us our deliveries that we're ordering, to give us our food. Like, we really need y'all on the road, but we also need y'all to do it the safe way and to prevent any claims from happening. And again, this is your business. You have to invest in your business, and if it costs you a little more just to invest in where you park your truck, by all means, I think it's a great investment, and it's going to be safer for you, and it's going to cause less problems because you have a reputable address where you can park your truck. So I just think practicing doing your due diligence in your business is going to get you guys a long way.
Okay, so we have a lot of interstate haulers, like, they're going across state lines. So how do you think they determine which garaging address is the right one to report? Because if they're going to different states, they might be staying there in different times. Like, they might be there 5 days one week, 5 days the next week. How do they know which one is the right one to report?
So that's a good question too, because it's kind of tricky with that one. I'm not going to lie, because I've encountered that one as well. And if you have a story and it makes sense, then they won't really bug you too much on that. Like, for example, if we live in Florida right now, but I park my truck in North Carolina, but my mailing is here, my physical is over there in North Carolina. If I have a storyline as to why I park it over there, they will make it make sense, and they won't bug you too much. And it's as well if you have the proof. So there just has to be a storyline for everything as to why you do your business, and it just has to make sense as well. If it doesn't make sense, then they're gonna red flag you, and they're gonna charge you a higher premium because it seems like you're not being truthful. You're trying to go behind the ropes and get something that's cheaper for you. But that's why we always practice good business and keep doing your due diligence and being a good trucker on the road and business entrepreneur.
Okay, so do you think in the future the FMCSA or the insurance carriers are going to get even stricter with the proof of garaging address? Like, what do you think they're going to do in the future?
Yeah, they're for sure cracking down for sure. I'm already seeing it right now. And it's not even going to be for that. It's going to be for a lot of topics that we'll be discussing here in the future, just so you guys are informed. But for the proof of garaging, they're definitely going to start getting more stricter and multiple carriers, because if you're parking somewhere that makes no sense, then it's going to cause a red flag, and people, claims don't get paid out, unfortunately. And that's just going to come out of your pocket. So it's just your best interest to be truthful about where you're parking and make sure everything aligns.
Okay, so with all this technology coming out, we're in that technology era. Do you think that there will be telematics or technology software in the future that'll replace the need for a paper that says you actually live here? You know what I mean? Technology or telematics that can prove your garaging address.
I think the ELDs that people are using now, and I think a lot of truckers do use it. I think if you have an older truck, you can't really use one, but if you have a newer truck, you are using one right now, and that is definitely picking up on where you're parking your truck. And they use that telematics information against you as well, because there's a lot of carriers now that they're going to start requiring you to connect your telematics to their system so that they can track you. And it's not in a bad way, because people started to be like, oh, I don't want to connect my telematics. They're going to see that I'd be speeding.
Big brother.
Right. And it's like, honestly, first of all, you shouldn't be doing that. You should be safe driving and practicing that. And if you're just an owner, not an operator, you should be instilling that into your drivers as well. But they're using that just so that we can have no claims out in the street. What a perfect world would be, and a lot of people would be alive. Ripped to the
No, that was a good one.
No, but for real, we have more people alive and more truckers to do business and help us out, because we need y'all. Like I said, we need y'all out in these streets. But yeah, I think the ELDs is going to be a game changer in a great way, not in a bad way. And don't take it as a red flag, because I've had people come to me like, oh, I don't want to connect my telematics. But you're practicing safe driving, right?
It's helping them in the end of the day. I mean, it's helping you in the end of the day. So what would be one golden rule that you can give to any truckers listening about the proof of garaging address?
Just do business right. If someone's giving you advice on how to do things the correct way, just take it. Don't give any pushback. We want to help you, especially here in Prestige. I can't speak for every agent, but here at Prestige, we make sure to do things the right way. And we do take the longer route, but it's for your benefit, because we want to make sure that we're crossing our T's and batting our I's. I don't know if that's how you say it. But yeah, if we're asking you a little more questions, it's because we want to make sure that you don't have that flat cancellation or the premium increase midterm.
So if you need coverage built for the future, just know we are the agency you want to be with, and you can call us for any of your questions or trucking needs.
You've been listening to the Purple Chair podcast from Prestige Trucking Insurance. Remember, every mile counts, and the right protection makes the difference. Stay connected, stay protected, and keep driving forward with Prestige. Until next time, thanks for riding with us.